Oh hey guys, let's continue animating a fiery burst explosion. For part 1 of this tutorial, check out the description. Alright, so we've got this so far. Got this exploding guy going on here. Here's what it looks like on our sprite sheet so far. We've got the burst, and then it's holding for a couple of frames on this keyframe that we first did, and then it's dispersing here. There's a few things that I've been looking at that I want to fix right away, so we'll just dive right in. So one thing I like is that there's these fiery arms coming out, but then unfortunately they're rapidly cooling. First off, these outer shapes should be the slightly lighter version, not the darker shadow. So I've changed that, and then they can get to the darker shadow shape later on, like so. Oops, not that one. Like that. Well, that's just going to help a little bit with the sense of it cooling off as it gets further out. It's turning into that darker shape. Secondly, to take it even further, I want to do something like this. And maybe that's not the right choice. Just give it a little bit of wobble though, so it's not straight. Oops. And then gradiate that out. And then get rid of it there. So this guy's going to rapidly cool. Let's see how that looks. Nah, I don't like that. We'll just go with the simplest version. That over there. Just want to make sure that this in between smoothly. There we go. Now you got that spark lasting just long enough right there on the bottom. Speaking of sparky fieriness, the thing that I think this animation is missing more than anything, if we bring it up here in our folder, is a sense of swirling flame. The hallmark of fire is that it kind of twirls with currents of the air, so we want to incorporate some of that into this. Mostly right now it's just kind of poofing out like smoke. And I realized one thing too that I want to fix on my keyframes before we start in betweening is the amount that this rotates right here. So here he's like that, then he's almost a full 45-degree turn, and then he's about a 30-degree difference there. And really that's a little too uniform. He's rotating the same amount the whole way through. And if he's slowing down, then he shouldn't be rotating that far. Oops, let's turn on outline on skin so you can see it better. A shape that's slowing down really stops rotating the same way that it stops moving. So that should feel a little better. What you can do instead of rotating it is you can eat away at it, like so. And that gives it that nice sense of finishing. Maybe it does move just a bit. It doesn't have to stop moving altogether. There we go. I like it. Alright, so, as I was saying, swirly flaminess. So we've got these guys going on up in here. And I want these shapes to have some fun. I'm going to set my line thickness down to 0.1. I'm going to make this shape flare out before it gets smaller. See how that looks. Needs to be rounded there. And maybe this hot core here, I mean, that can't just go away, right? Maybe it becomes a fiery shape in the middle. We can have some fun with that also. Make that the same. Connect these together. I'm just kind of building my shapes up one at a time. And then seeing where it makes sense to connect them together. Alright. Yeah, let's leave a lot of this intact. Not the whole thing, but most of it. I'm just building something I can work with later. I'm probably going to change a lot of this actually. Right. Cool. And why not? Let a little bit of that ember live on in this guy before it dies out. Alright. A little bit of a flame wick up in here. This is something. The shape was just begging for it. Now the air current is coming down like this, so maybe that flame wick should be facing the other way. Oops, there we go. So that's looking. Yeah, so we got the nice little flame roll going on up in there. We got the beginning of a flame shape in the middle. Sorry, I'm not very talkative in this tutorial. I guess I got in the zone there for a minute. So let's see. This shape, I'm doing a lot of brain processing right now, trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with these shapes. It's crazy. Alright, the idea is that the clouds sit on top of the flame, but that the flame can kind of cast a shadow up into the cloud, or it's like behind the cloud. So this right here is a shadow being like underlit. I guess it's not a shadow shape, it's a lighting highlight being cast up from the center. So keeping that in mind, let's see. This is going to have to shrink way back, like so. Because the light being cast from in the middle is going to be much smaller. And let's see, I've created myself a mess. I only want to see one frame in front. There we go. It's a little less busy. And now I got to decide how this guy is going to die in the middle. Basically, what I don't want to do is just shrink it down like that. Because that is boring. Fire moves in much more interesting ways. So maybe there's like a negative shape there. Maybe it eats in like this. And then this will slide there. There we go. And then I can even pull this forward more so it matches up with that a little bit. pull this down there. So it's sliding downward. And I can break it off into little flame licks. The fire will die long before the smoke dies. So I need to get it out of there. Oops. Yeah. There we go. One little flaming piece of smoke left. There we go. Little remnants of it just kind of clinging, and then it's gone. So there we go. We have the flame keyframed in now as well. Now it's time for the shadow. That in there. Get the shadow going on. Alright. So the shadow is going to grow as the rest of it shrinks. And remember, the shadow doesn't touch the flame parts. So that shadow is shrinking. We want it to grow. Alright. Make sure your corners are touching. All of them. And there you go. So maybe that flame shape shouldn't grow so much because I need room for my shadow to grow. So it's a give and take. Give to the shadow, take from the flame. I have kind of weird ways of making my shapes sometimes, I realize. Like grab things, move them around. That sort of thing. There we go. Maybe I don't want it to shrink that much. I'll give it some spacing. Let it wobble out a little bit. Because this shape is growing so much up top, it doesn't need to shrink down quite so fast. And that shadow shape. It's got some space, it's got some time. Same with this guy here. He grows up a little bit first before he shrinks down. Right, so we got this coming down in here. Actually, this corner here becomes this corner, so it needs to track slightly upward. And this guy, I want it to look like he's behind the bigger shape. So this bigger shape looks like it's coming on top of that guy now, which is great. I'll just finish him off there. I can darken him quickly like that. So it makes sense why it's all black there. You got to think of your in-betweens in a very non-literal way. So if this shape is here, I'll turn on this to illustrate. If these two shapes are here, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to cut all the way across. See on this guy here, it's cutting across at an angle, and that adds more variety, whereas this one comes more top to bottom. You want some variety in how it moves. You know, slide it, rotate it, that kind of thing. It'll just make it feel a lot nicer. These should be darker by the time they're out here. So to transition this guy, do something similar like that. Let's make that shape a little more appealing. This guy gets dark pretty quick. This guy breaks into two, if I remember right. Yeah. Let's do this shape first. That'll help inform what happens here. See how those two turn into each other? He's just got a little bit longer to live. And he dies. Okay, now this guy over here. No, he's detached. He should be a lot darker by now. Yeah, he'll be all dark by there. Ooh, sharpen up those corners, buddy. There we go. Alright, back to the big shape. Big wobbly shape. It wobbles a lot, doesn't it? I don't know if I like how much it's wobbling. Maybe make this a little more blunt so the wobble isn't as extreme. Okay. And then I'll turn back on outline mode so I can see where the heck I'm drawing. You can click on a layer to see it better when you're in outline mode. No, maybe like so. I have no idea. How does that look? Just taking stabs in the dark here, guys. Fake it till you make it. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, now it ends up like this. Oops. So I'm going to kind of keyframe my colors here. Ah. There really isn't much lighting this at all. But I'm going to just leave it there. Yeah, that should be done by then. So, alright, so that's going to turn into that, I guess. Yeah, that works. And by here, it's Gonzo. Let's check it out. Right? So there we have it. So it feels like it's being lit from the middle. You got the fieriness going on there in the center, and it's dispersing out into the explosion. So now all that's left really is to in between this sucker. Let's see how long I've been going on this one. Could maybe talk a little bit longer about some things, but I think I'll save that for the next tutorial. Yeah, so tune in for the next tutorial where I talk about how to get this guy in between. Hope you learned something.